Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
November 1973, this came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew it was
Really,
73.
really.
I didn't know it was like the actual month. That's kind of cool, I guess,
Yeah,
if you're
no.
into time and dates.
Yeah, you Disney freaks. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Disney's Robin Hood, Dawn of the Furries.
Mm-hmm.
Soon, the world's best-loved legend achieves its brightest, most colorful dimension when it comes to the screen in total animation from Walt Disney Productions.
Yay, Dad! Help! Robin, help! Oh.
Robin Hood.
Marion, my love.
And all Sherwood Forest celebrated characters. But now they're members of the animal kingdom.
They super want us to fuck them.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole movie, they're like, is this, do you want this?
How
you
about
wanna
this?
fuck
What about this one? All right. Okay.
How about
Next
this
scene.
rooster?
Next scene. What about this rooster? Yeah. How about him?
Big old thank you to Burrito,
Thank you.
our Patreon producer who made this happen. Thank you, Burrito. We love Disney's Robin Hood. We love watching Disney's Robin Hood. And yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like Disney's Robin Hood? This is one of my favorite Disney films.
Really? I like it okay. It's one of those that I've seen it a whole lot. I grew up watching it a lot. And there were parts of it that I liked as a kid, but mostly this was like sort of indexed in my memory as one of the boring ones, like the Aristocats.
Interesting.
Sort of like the 60s and 70s Disney in my brain when I was a kid were like the boring years.
This is one that...
But as an adult, I appreciate it more because it's very funny.
It is. Yeah, I grew up on it as well, and it's just always stuck with me. This and like Sword in the Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the theme song has never left my head.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just every time I wake up, that's what I hear. This stupid rooster.
Ooh, Delali.
This fucking rooster. Okay, I think this rooster is a questionable narrator because I forgot rewatching this. The rooster is like, "This is how it really happened," and he keeps saying that, and I'm like, "Really? With talking animals?" Like they're really trying to push like it reminds me of the Jamie Foxx Robin Hood where they're like the story you didn't hear.
Yeah.
I love it whenever they do that and then they tell a ridiculous story.
Well, it's more
just very funny.
I think it's more intentional in this. It's more like
Yeah,
with a
it
wink
is.
in this one because that's
It is.
the whole idea is Robin Hood's a
It
legend.
is. It's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, questionable rooster is my point. I love later
Every
when he's-
rooster is questionable.
Yeah, later when he's also been arrested. That's not for not paying taxes. That's just indecent exposure. That fucking rooster.
Yeah.
That is fun.
He
Though.
has
It is
he has
fun.
the strut of a man that's on a registry.
Oh yeah, it's very fun when they arrest the narrator. Like that really raises the stakes.
It does. This has one of the darkest second acts, I think, of a Disney film.
It really does. I'll never forget it.
It's so
Yeah.
brutal. Everyone gets arrested. Friar Tuck goes to jail. They're gonna hang Friar Tuck.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the castle
also
burns
like-
down. Yeah.
I know.
Wild.
I love a good Disney. Disney will do this every now and then where like when it's like it's getting dark, they're like, let's literally make it dark and stormy. And it's wonderful. I love it when they do that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is, I also have to point out, it's Robin Hood. It's just very funny to me. Robin Hood's one of those things that's just baked into our culture. And it's the story about how, the rich overtax the poor
Yeah.
to fund themselves,
Yes.
and how that's fundamentally evil and bad,
Yeah.
and we should not do it.
Right.
And rich people are just like big babies with mother complexes. And how outlaws and terrorists of today could be the heroes of tomorrow. And society has been like, we love that story. Anyway, let's just do all the bad stuff.
Let's
that they talk about
refuse
in
to
this.
learn the lesson of it. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome
to
how
the
we
point
just
that-
do not take this story to heart, although we keep
Right.
telling it.
That the poor in this movie, the poor go to jail for just being poor, for the crime of being poor. And it's like, yeah, that's what we do. Also, the church is useless. Did you notice that?
Yeah, they don't do a fucking thing.
Yeah, they just mourn the situation. They're like, oh, well, we don't pay taxes because we're the church. Anyway, hey, Mouse, put your money in this for the poor. They have the saddest little fucking animals in this.
It's brutal. It's like a miserable
Yeah.
little film in the middle
It
there.
really is.
Until they
For
all decide to say fuck it and go and live off the grid.
Right. And I was watching the whole time like, you're animals. You don't need money. What are you doing? You fucked up. You fucked up, animals. Like,
Again, we keep telling the story and not letting some of the more important lessons sink in. I think that's one of them.
right. Animals don't need money.
Well, yeah, Anyway,
Yeah, I know. Money isn't
you see
fake.
what I'm saying. We made it up. It's not
We
real.
made it up. So yeah, I guess for people who haven't seen this movie, I don't know if that needs to be said. It's the story of Robin Hood, but it's a bunch of fuckable animals. There, I just explained the movie.
Particularly
it starts with
the foxes, Robin Hood and Maid Marian,
right.
the sexiest cartoon foxes in Disney history.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, this was 73. I have no sense of time when it comes to Disney movies before like the 90s. So like this could have been made in the 30s for me. I'm like, or the 40s or 50s. I don't fucking, because how many of them begin with the storybook, like the Shrek storybook opening?
A lot of the older
Because I feel,
ones.
yeah, they do, right?
Mhm.
They should bring that back.
They could.
That's
I
fun.
mean, if they're listening.
Yeah.
Walt's always listening. He has every radio signal piped into his little cryogenic freezer tube and in Burbank.
He's plugged into the net.
Yeah, he is.
He's like end of Lawnmower Man.
Yeah,
He's just in
He's
the-
Jeff Fahey at the
So yeah, I have some bold statements about this
Sure.
movie, I guess. One, I think this is the best opening to a Disney film, like opening credits. It's so delightful just having them running around.
It's like
on the
watching a theater club or like a traveling theater troupe or something, because it really leans into the ensemble idea. Robin Hood is not in this movie very much.
No, he's not.
It's this big
Yeah, they do
ensemble
this-
cast of mostly comic actors, being real fucking yucksters. And it's
didn't
really kind of a series of vignettes more than anything else.
It really is. I mean, it does follow Robin Hood.
Yeah.
But it is like, to the point at the beginning when they're doing the opening credits, they're introducing each
It's
character.
like, here are the players.
What-
Yeah.
Yeah, and what animal they are. It's a delightful fucking. And then there's just this little like procession happening on screen, and then Robin Hood getting chased away by the Rhino guards. It's just like a white background to the whole thing. It feels very modern. More modern, obviously, than the movie is. And I always thought that was great. I also think this is one of the best voice acting Disney has done. I don't recognize most of the voice actors, except for one. Do you know which one?
I assume Phil Harris.
I don't know the name. The sheriff.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah.
Because I was like, I heard that voice. Yeah, I heard the voice, and I'm like, well, that's Back to the Future 3 right
Well,
there.
yeah. They did a fucking gag in the movie where the sheriff and all of his men are all Western actors.
It's great. Yeah, and if you remember Back to the Future 3, he's just one of the old
He's one of
timers
the old
at
guys
the
at the
bar,
bar, yeah.
who has cowboy voice.
Yeah.
Like he just has natural cowboy
if
voice.
you watched, if your dad made you watch movies growing up, if your parents are boomers and your dad made you watch movies growing up, you have seen this guy in probably 38 westerns. Like he was,
yes.
Him and Trigger and Nutsy were just regulars. The guy who plays Friar Tuck as well, he's another western actor.
Yeah, but like this guy, it's like it's cartoonish western.
Oh yeah,
like it's introduction to like you're getting on Thunder Mountain.
Now what's
voice.
all we're here to do?
Yeah.
You guys know the
It's
sheriff.
like he's set. he's either doing it on purpose or like that's just he has natural cowboy
he's leaning
voice.
into it a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Do you agree with me with that? Where like the voices are all like middle-aged people, and I love that.
Well,
they're
I
all
agree.
Just sort of they're not very cute.
I agree because this Robin Hood in my mind is like a kindred spirit to me with the Great Mouse Detective, because I agree that I think all of the voice cast is great, and a lot of it has to do with there isn't really a quote unquote star in it. They're just kind of like casting a lot of it's comic actors, like I said. But it centers around sort of like a standout, a single standout performance. And in Great Mouse Detective, it's the bad guy. It's Vincent Price as Ratigan. And in this one, it's the bad guy as well. It's Peter Ustinov as Prince John, which is just about the funniest fucking vocal performance you could think of.
It's weird to see a cartoon character chew the scenery. But that's what's happening.
He is making a meal out of every... Yeah, Sir Hiss is Terry Thomas, is another comedic actor. But it's like watching every scene of theirs is like a Carol Burnett sketch. It's like watching these two guys just make a meal out of the most inconsequential lines. Like, I fucking love Ustinov as Prince John. He'll say things like, "Now see here, his one more hiss out of you, hiss, and you'll be walking to Nottingham." Like, it's fucking...
I've got a dirty thumb. I love that fucking line, that sick fuck. When he says, I don't know if he says this, someone says, "Be gone, long one," to the snake, and I lost it. I thought that was so fucking funny.
That's Phil Harris. That's Little John.
Okay.
But he's another great one, yeah.
Yeah, and this has some of the best, like,
"Release my buddy."
It's so well done.
Oh,
just the voiceover.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, so the opening thing is Robin Hood and Little John, they
walking through the forest, reminiscing this and that.
They see Prince John's little parade thing, his little parade route.
Yep.
You know, when people traveled, they traveled via parade back in the day.
Yeah.
And they
the prince.
Yeah, and they dress up as seers, and I love that this is a time where a fortune teller on the side of the road apparently is enough to go like, "Oh, we have to pull over and do this."
Well, think about it. You don't have any entertainment. There's no internet. There's no There aren't any highways, so there's no like you can't pull off to the side of the road and see Kitsch. Kitsch has to come to you.
Right. That's true.
No.
What are the odds? And they do a little bit where they're like, they're robbing them blind. Well, the snake always inevitably is onto it.
And Prince John never listens. I love the fucking... It cuts outside to, like, Little John just, like, he's like, "Oh, solid gold hubcaps." And he's, like, taking the hubcaps off. And
he's stealing his fucking hubcaps.
Yeah, so they're just robbing him blind, but I like that it cuts away from Robin's, like, grift inside the cab for a little while until there's like a reveal where they have to run off, and Prince John comes out and he's literally in his underwear because Robin Hood has like stolen his clothes even and his crown. I think
it's so weird.
I like that we don't get to see it. It's just it's escalated as much to the kissing the rings is great.
It's such a good bit. There's such good comedic timing. It's like modern comedic timing with a lot of this. And then, the performances. And then the rhino loves Little John's big old dumper.
Hell yeah, it does.
Again, a lot of fuckable animals in this.
Yeah.
And so, like, this actually sets up something that it's not like a note, obviously, but I'm curious about. So there's a few ideas around Robin Hood in this. And what I'm realizing is this is also, like, one of my favorite portrayals of Robin Hood. Like, what do we have? What do we have for that? We have like have Russell Crowe, Kevin Costner.
We got the classic like Errol Flynn, or is that Fairbanks? But you know, like the old '30s swashbuckling version of Robin Hood, which is what this one is closer to.
Yeah, we got Carrie Elways, which is closer to that.
Yeah, exactly.
We have that one where they all wore like modern outfits, and it was, the one. That bad one. Remember the bad one?
No. Oh, the one with Jamie Foxx?
Yeah. Where they like forget to show him Give to the Poor.
Yes.
for most of it.
Yeah.
Like that's what
They really
this
just
shows
focus on him being badass. Like the Costner one does that too. Like this one.
Yeah.
This one, he really is more like Spider-Man. Like he's happy-go-lucky, but he's kind of living on the fringes. Like he's not keeping anything for himself.
A man of the people.
He's a man of the people. He's a total man of the people. He swoops in to like give people money after the sheriff comes in and takes it all. Like in that, the sheriff fucking bursts in and destroys that poor child's birthday.
Oh my God, that's the funniest fucking scene.
And then robs what he thinks is a blind man on the way out.
Yeah. This has the most dirtbag moments like that because they get
scumbags.
They get a bunch of like mice and bunnies and they just make them I'm pretty sure they cast actual kids.
Oh yeah,
like
those
that
are
turtle
children.
as well.
Yeah, those are all kids.
Yeah. And they give them like quivering lips and like teary eyes as they're being robbed. It's the funniest. It's so over the top mean.
Now
and
don't
like,
take it so hard,
mister.
son.
Yeah.
The prince wishes you a happy birthday too.
And the little buddy is like stuttering,
He's weeping. Yeah, mean old sheriff took my birthday present.
Oh my God, it's so over the top. That's one that, like, as a kid, that made me sad. Watching it now, I'm like,
It's
oh my God,
brutal. I mean,
this is so funny that it's so brutal.
There were a couple of parts that still did like bother me, and I mean,
Yes.
Friar Tuck getting arrested is still real fucking dark.
It is.
Like that's real dark.
It really is. They love it. Disney
They
loves
love
it.
doing this shit.
Yeah, but so like that's one of the things that occurs to me. Like, honestly, in most of them, even in like Men in Tights, not that we didn't need to hold that to the same standard, but like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like the classic Robin Hoods. I haven't seen the older ones. We don't really see him giving to the poor. They always kind of cut that out. They show him stealing from the rich. And like in like the Kevin Costner one,
because the movies tend to focus a lot on the adventure of it.
yes, and it's always stealing from the rich to fund his militia. It feels like more than give. Like they never show. Like the problem is, it's like you're either on his side and you get the money, or you never see him just like go to a village to people who are apolitical, you know, who are not involved. And become like, that's the idea, right? He's a man of the people more than he has a militia. It's more that it's like, yeah, he has a little militia, but also just the common folk love him. And they never show that. And this is like one of the few ones where they do. They show this scene we're describing where Robin Hood comes in just to check in on this poor family and give them some money. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, you know, keep your chin up. And you immediately understand his appeal as a character.
Right, he's a folk hero. Like, oh, you know, don't worry because you know Robin Hood might show up and brighten up your birthday or something. And sure enough, he did. And it's like, now be good and keep your chin up. And away Robin Hood goes. You know, that's part of what a folk hero is.
It's just funny because I know there are other characters like this where they're so oversaturated in their depiction that you realize that they forget to show some of the basic things.
Yes.
Because they're like, you get
very
it.
basic things.
Yeah, steals from rich, gives to the poor, and it's like, yeah, but you have to show that in your movie.
You need us to know this about him. Yeah,
right. And I mean, this like, one actually takes that time.
Robin Hood gets away with it because it can by just like in Prince of Thieves, for example, just leans into Nottingham's cruelty. So it's like, well, the people are on Robin Hood's side because he's fucking sticking it to Nottingham. So you know,
right.
So we kind of we get to the end result, the end narrative result the same, but it's not like the same. It's not the same spirit.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel as much. I don't know. You realize like it's like lesser of two evils.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're just like, well, I guess like, we'll fucking root for this guy because he's
less awful.
Yeah.
But like Robin Hood is also. It's interesting because that's a combination of the fact that Robin Hood is also very cocky. And so like. It would be really, really easy, like the Jamie Foxx one. And that one, when you watch that, you just hate him because he's not like. There's one scene they show one scene where he's hucking coins at like houses, and you're like, okay, see, like they do it in like 15 seconds. So like he gives to the poor, and it's like, got it. But like it feels so unearned.
He just fucking whips it at their houses like a methed out paperboy.
Right, and I think that's important because like this movie has one of the things. That is also a very common Robin Hood trope that even this movie doesn't explore that much, which is that Robin Hood is very cocky. To the point that he gets him in trouble, right?
Right.
He's doing like the first thing they show is that they're stealing Prince John, and they're not happy unless they literally strip him of his wealth. That like Little John sees the
hubcaps, and Robin Hood has taken his clothes, and then later on when they are busting all the people out of prison. And they're busy getting all the people out, and Robin Hood's like, "Okay, John, you get all the people out. I'm gonna go rob the prince." And what fucks them up, what almost gets them caught, is Robin Hood is robbing Prince John,
and it's his greed because he wants every last
because he takes every fucking bag. Yeah,
and it's interesting that they don't develop any sort of arc with that.
No,
it's just
you're
sort
right.
of
It's
a
there.
characteristic.
It's there, but the movie doesn't highlight it really, so it's not something I ever thought about when I was a kid. Like, you just think, well, Robin Hood's good, he's taking all the money because Prince John is bad and it's all the people's money, he's stealing it all back.
It's like, right, he's like a little stinker where it's like, I gotta get that last bag, be careful, Robin Hood. And it's the same with the archery contest.
Right.
It's like there's no reason for him to go to the archery contest. It is completely an act of vanity.
Well, he wants to see Maid Marian. So they find little ways for us to still be on his side, which is what the adaptations you're talking about tend to forget. Like you were talking about the Jamie Foxx one with it, which I think is Taron Egerton as Robin Hood. I think it's Elton John as Robin Hood. Anyway, where they forget to do that, where that's part of being a rogue, is he still has to have a charm and a good quality to him. So it's like we can abide his cockiness because he's going to the archery tournament because he wants to see Maid Marian, and then they have that scene where she recognizes him and it's very sweet, and it leads into another scene that remained as dark as it was for me when I was a kid, which is when Robin Hood gets caught and Prince John is just going to cut his head off right there, and he's like, "Oh, really? You love him?" And they exchange that scene where it's just, these two cartoon foxes in a Disney movie, but Maid Marian's like, "Yeah, I do love him," and he's like, "I love you more than life itself." And he's like, "Oh, we'll cut his head off anyway." And it's the drum beat and the fucking black hooded rhino. It's dark. Yeah. It's dark.
It's really dark. It's really dark. That's a good scene because they do another thing in this that they have to do is because they're trying to only be like an hour and 20.
Yeah. You gotta get in and get out with these things.
Yeah. Got to reuse that Snow White animation.
And they're reusing a lot of Jungle Book in this.
Yeah, they are.
And actually Aristocats, too. It's more on... Yeah. I think they literally take 3 of the same band characters from Aristocats in the phony King of England scene.
Amazing.
Anyway, sorry.
No, by the we'll get to that. I want to talk about the phony King of England. They layer it where they're having an adventure and he's professing his love. Let's get married. They're planning their wedding. They do a good job at condensing the Robin Hood story, is I guess what I mean. Because there's the Marian stuff, which is like always like it's kind of the B plot to Robin Hood. And they do a very good job at sort of condensing and layering it.
They stick to the archetypes because, I mean, it is a legend. So. Right.
Like traditionally... correct me if I'm wrong. Traditionally, at the end, Robin Hood has to save Maid Marian, right?
Typically, I think, but I'm not actually that familiar with the legend. I just know the different movies, and that's usually what happens at the end of the movie.
Tights, Costner,
the old ones.
When Picard, the one where Q makes him Robin Hood, that's what he has to do. And so. I just think it's interesting because Maid Marian kind of bounces for the third act.
Yeah, she's in Sherwood Forest. He's just hanging out.
Right. Yeah, and like maybe I don't know, if I were writing this I would have involved her more, but I do like that they leaned on he's a man of the people to the point that he literally has to save all the people, or rather animals, instead of Maid Marian. And I just think that's an interesting change based on like having to condense stuff where it's like his love for Maid Marian is kind of wrapped up after the
right after they escape in the archery scene, and that's kind of when they get a bunch of people to come join them in Sherwood Forest and live off the grid. But yeah,
right, and it makes sense when you think about it, where it's like that is the arc, is like he's a rogue, they haven't seen each other for a while. Do they love each other? Oh, they love each other. And then the story, there's like, oh, she's captured and he has to save her, and like making that tweak, it's like, yeah, that doesn't change the arc at all.
No, and it's You're right. It's not even really much of an arc because he starts as a man of a people and he ends there. It's just, I guess it's more of like a completion of our understanding of his character, because like we were saying, like his cockiness is what precipitates the first two events that happen. Because really, this movie is a series of three events: it's the carriage robbery, it's the archery scene, and then it's the jailbreak.
Right.
And the carriage robbery and the archery scene are both because of Robin's being cocky. Like Little John's like, we probably shouldn't rob Prince John. We'll get in deep shit if we do that. And Robin Hood's like, fuck it. So they rob him blind. What does Prince John do? He takes it out on the people. But in this archery contest, he's like, Maid Marian's going to be there. Well, fuck it. I'll go and shoot. And then he goes there and gets himself into trouble. But then the final thing, when they bust Friar Tuck, he comes out of there when he finds out that that's what they're building the gallows for. And Little John's like, fuck, what are we going to do? And Robin's like, we got to do a jailbreak tonight because their plan is for tomorrow. Like, they're setting up an ambush for us to come save him during the hanging tomorrow, so we bust him out tonight. And Little John's like, that's nuts. All these guards are here. He says, but we've got to, John, or else they'll hang Friar Tuck at dawn. So we're seeing the other half of Robin's personality that makes his cockiness okay. Is that, he's unselfish, ultimately. Like, he is selfish in his cockiness to a degree, but ultimately he's a man of the people. It's like, we got to save him. What's interesting
is that, like, if this was made now, I think they would have made a way more clear arc. I think of some of this, because I'm trying to think of old Disney movies from, like, the 70s and before, and I don't think they focus as much on character arcs. They sort of, it's just archetypes.
Yeah, especially with the older ones, when they're like adaptations of fairy tales, or when they're like legends like Robin Hood, where it's less about an arc and it's more about a lesson, or right. Or so like, and then that lends the nature of this film to being sort of vignette-ish.
Right.
So it's more just kind of like, we're here a couple of chapters in the legend of Robin Hood. So it's less about his character progressing and more of, he starts as the same hero that he ends as. It's just, here's a couple of adventures.
Right, but you could have easily, like, you could have easily done it where everybody gets, basically everybody gets fucked in the third act.
They really do.
They make up a song on the spot that's so good that it becomes a hit, which I think is very funny for a musical, because it's like, is the music? It's always the question for a musical, which is like, do they know they're singing, or does it symbolize something? And this is one of the few musicals where a song that's sung is like so memorable that they later show characters like humming it, and they're like, yeah, that was such a banger, and like that's what makes the Prince John get mad, because he learns that they sung a song.
That's what makes him arrest everyone.
Yeah. And so you'd think there'd be a moment where Robin Hood would get like someone would yell at him and be like, don't you see, it's your hubris. Everybody's paying for your hubris, right?
Right.
Like, why can't you just leave it alone?
He needs a Christian Slater to be yelling at him.
Exactly. And then you'd have, to complete that arc, a scene at the end where he has to choose between getting a bunch of gold or saving everybody, and then he chooses the people instead of his own, like that's what it feels like. They're exploring this idea that they're greedy themselves. Like they love stealing this shit. But
right,
the movie does make up for it by showing him that he's not keeping any of it.
Right.
So it works ultimately.
And it's not just that he's greedy. It's also that, like we said, he's a little rascal. He's like Bugs Bunny. He can't resist needling the prince. He can't resist fucking with Prince John. And it causes harm to the people because Prince John takes it out on the people when he can't catch Robin Hood.
Right. But yeah, I think it's not like a problem with the movie, because like when they're stealing all the gold, for example, I was thinking like, you don't need every bag, do you, Robin Hood? That's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And then you see that the gold is being funneled directly to the people, and I'm like, yeah, they do need all the gold.
Yeah, fuck it, take it all. Yeah, all these people are starving to death.
Right. I don't know why Robin Hood doesn't just slit his throat when he's sleeping. That would have solved it.
Because he's not a murderer. Then he's not a rogue. Then he's not roguish.
Yeah. He's a fox. Foxes kill.
They do.
Just the people could rise
Dave,
up against.
Dave, if you slit people's throats and steal their money, then you're just a murderer.
Yeah, but like this is, I think they could have. I think nobody would have complained in this time.
More difficult to cheer for.
Yeah. All right. I have another aspect of Robin Hood as a character that I realize that this movie covers that I don't really remember any other movie covering. Robin Hood is a master of disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Is that that's like, you think of all right. So what's interesting about this is like, I think this is better storytelling than like in Prince of Thieves, for example. Robin Hood is Kevin Costner, who I would argue is not a master of disguise. You don't look at that guy and think, oh, that guy can take on any role. He can't even do an accent in it.
He's
but
not a chameleon.
there's a scene later where he plays a beggar.
Yep.
And I always kind of laughed at that.
It's the exact scene that's in this movie. It's when he comes up to the gallows and asks him, what are you building the gallows for?
Right. But in this one, they set it up from the start.
We've seen him do it a couple of times. Yeah.
Right.
Even his old man character, like this old man is like his matchstick Malone.
Right. To the point that him and Little John keep being like, oh, you wait for this disguise. Like they're competing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they keep like competing their method acting.
They're improv kids.
Yeah. It's just very interesting because I can't remember any other Robin Hood that really has done this. They'll usually have a scene where he shows up in disguise, right? Usually the archery.
Right. Yeah. It's usually the archery scene.
This actually just like takes more of its time narratively to set up that this is a part of his character. Like, I feel like this movie establishes the character of Robin Hood better than a lot of them. And at the same time doesn't fulfill an arc, which I just think is weird. Like they spend a lot of time doing a great job at, like, by the first scene, you know exactly what kind of person Robin Hood
Exactly,
is.
yeah. It's, like I said, I think this is trading exclusively in, like, archetypes, right? Because it is a legend. So they're just like, well, for sure. Robin Hood is 3 things.
But it's just funny that they set it up so well, so quickly.
Yeah, it's in the opening song into that first scene where it's Robin Hood and Little John sitting in the tree and having their conversation. Like, we know everything we need to know about those two, pretty much. And then by the end of the robbery, we know absolutely everything we need to know about these characters.
Yeah. And it sets up, like, the exchange that, like, Little John, he goes in loud a lot. I love the line, what a beautiful brawl. He says
yeah. Beautiful brawl.
It's such a good fucking line.
And the Scottish chicken, Lady Cluck.
Taking on all those rhinos.
Likes to beat the shit out of people too,
yeah. Oh, that's solid.
But yeah, we also, in the tree scene, we learn that Little John is more cautious and Robin likes to go over the top.
Right. Robin keeps pushing it.
Yeah.
That's, again, they do such a good job setting up all these aspects of him that, like, I guess they thought, like, yeah, they're like, we're just telling the story. It's just a legend. We don't have to, like, give him a big...
It's a different attitude. It's the same, you guys know. But they spent time, like, they were like, you guys know the archery thing. Like, they never, and to the credit of those other movies, most of those movies don't, like, bother to sit us down and explain to us why Robin Hood is great at archery. He just fucking is. That's fine. But, like, this one wisely decides to focus on all, like, the heart of Robin Hood, which is the man of the people stuff, and the fact that he has to ultimately be this unselfish character in order for the story to feel, I think, the way that it's supposed to feel, or the way that it probably felt when people were telling it back then, right? Because it's supposed to give you hope and make you feel happy.
Right. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, so what happens? They put on a folksy puppet show, and that always goes wrong, you know.
It always gets It always gets a little uncomfortably violent.
Right. And it gets so good that even, like, Sir Hiss and the sheriff are singing the song.
Yeah.
So, like, in a way, they don't pin it on Robin Hood. Like, Robin Hood isn't the reason. It's all the people rise up a little bit and they dare to be like,
right,
to be having fun
this
at his
one
expense.
Tiny bit of rebellion, this utterly harmless song, and he throws them all in fucking jail.
And this is all to say, it doesn't feel like it would be fair for them to be like, see what you did, Robin Hood.
Oh yeah,
because the movie, again, it's telling a very straightforward moral tale, which is like, sometimes you got to be a terrorist.
Yeah.
And like when society is unjust, and so for that reason they draw that moral line so clearly that even Robin Hood, a rogue who pushes his luck, they just treat that like a fun little quirkiness to his character and not like a serious problem that needs to be fixed. So he never has to have that arc ultimately. And that is a lot of old Disney, right? Like Disney would later play with this. Like I always talk about the third Cinderella because when you watch the first Cinderella, there's like that movie I think doesn't work for the same reason because they draw these lines and it just feels like so overly simplistic, where like this prince just meets this pretty girl at a party and decides I'm going to marry her even though I don't know her, and the evil stepmother and stepsisters are just evil. It's just good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Even this one, like the fucking Prince John has this weird mother complex that it's funny how like it feels like even now, like in this movie all the way to today, we've always kind of had rich people's numbers.
Oh yeah,
right?
they've always been the same person.
Yeah. I was just tweeting about Foxcatcher because I watched that recently, and that was made in like 2017, and it's just about Elon Musk. And it's just like, yeah, I guess this was always a thing, right? Like rich people have always been like this, and they give Prince John this complex where he's just like, he wants to be loved, right? But no one likes him, and he has everything in the world, but he doesn't have the hearts of the people, and it drives him nuts.
Yeah.
It's a great little detail for him. I had a few things. All right, so Friar Tuck getting arrested.
Yeah.
Again, we sort of talked about how that's supposed to be Maid Marian. And it is kind of weird, only because he doesn't really have a relationship much with Friar Tuck.
Not that we really see. Like Friar Tuck shows up and tells him that Maid Marian is going to be at the archery tournament, but that's really the only time we see them together before he gets arrested.
Weird, yeah.
I think it's just because like the strength of Robin's reaction, obviously they're going to hang a monk, like,
right,
and he's a big figure in the community, like he's a fatherly figure to the community, so Robin's like, this cannot happen. Like this
I just thought it was a weird choice.
Yeah.
Like Little John, have Little John
Sure.
get arrested,
sure, but yeah, you're right.
It's just an odd choice. I have a question. Why do snakes hypnotize people?
I think that's like an old-timey storytelling device.
Because the Snake and Jungle Book also does it. Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is because they needed to reuse the animation. But it's weird, right? It's weird that snakes hypnotize people.
I guess it's just, I don't know. I guess it is weird. It's just always kind of been a storytelling thing. Yeah,
if you Google Disney snake hypnotized, let's see. Yeah, it's just porn. You get porn. But like, there must be a reason, right? Like, there's got. I'm gonna Google it. Why? Sorry, everybody. Do snakes hypnotize Disney? I'm not gonna read. Never mind. I think there is like some sort of thing where snakes all right, here's my guess. I've seen like a lizard eat something and the thing gets frozen in fear, and maybe like a bunch of idiots back in the day thought like,
maybe.
like that, it's hypnotizing him or something like that.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
That's my guess.
I don't know.
It's just weird. And it doesn't even come into play in this one that much.
No, not really. It's almost like a callback to Jungle Book because the character model is almost the same.
Oh my God. So I'm right. It is thought that the misconception that snakes are able to hypnotize their prey comes from a combination of their lidless eyes and the defense mechanisms of their prey causing them to completely freeze up, making it look like the snake has power over them. So that's what it is. That's really funny. That some old-timey assholes were like, it must be hypnotizing the mouse. Couldn't be that the mouse sees a giant serpent and is like, be very, very still.
Maybe if I don't move, he won't see my ass.
Yeah. Those idiots. Those old-timey idiots.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just have loose notes. Did a little kid yelling death to tyrants.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Solid. Get him radicalized early.
Oh, yeah, of course. Creepy rooster. His old man outfit is just his laziest disguise. I just have to call him out for that. I just got to blast him for that. Also, they go on their honeymoon and they take a child rabbit with them. I thought that was weird.
It's a little weird.
Why can they just take people's kids? Do they have that respect of the community that they can just take someone's child on their honeymoon as like a servant? I assume.
Maybe they're going to employ him as their like towel boy or something.
That's why. Yeah, it's like his little servant, or I don't know. All right, that's all I got on this.
I don't have any additional notes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great fucking. I mean, feel like I shouldn't have to say that people should see this. I don't know. I it's hard to say what my like favorite Disney thing is. Like favorite Disney cartoon is it feels so subjective because there's so many and it's all kind of a mood, right? Like what you're in the mood for.
Yeah.
Because Cinderella was another one I watched a bunch as a kid.
Same.
Like this is from that era. This is from the era where, you know, I'd go to the library, you rent something, and it's like Land Before Time, Robin Hood, you know? And so like I have heavy nostalgia for this, but it isn't like in terms of narratively, like it's more just vibes. It is like I just like I like this era of cartoons where they could just say like here's a story you all know. Like that was enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now Disney, it just has to get more and more subversive and stuff that it is kind of like more of a challenge. Like the bar was so low back then where they're just like, here's Robin Hood, but he's an animal. And you're like, cool.
Wow.
It's all my money. Wow. But so, yeah, I don't know. This is all to say that like, I'm curious what like a modern child who hasn't seen this would think about it. It's probably just really simple or basic. Cause like we talk about how scary it is. But is it that scary, or is it scary because we were children?
It's not scary. It's just there are two real heavy moments of darkness.
Right, because I felt it too.
Yeah.
When they drag him away, I felt that feeling, and I was like, "Oh, right, I remember this as a kid." And when that fucking rhino shows up with something about a rhino with a mask, it's just like, why does that rhino need to be anonymous? That alone disturbs me, you know?
Yeah. Well, he's the one cutting heads off.
Yeah, but like, come on, he's a rhino. This is what it's just what he does. Also, like, I don't know, just use your horn. It doesn't matter. But those two moments, they scare me. But like thinking of them objectively, it's like they're not that scary. I feel like freakier things have happened in modern kids movies now. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you to Burrito. Happy 50-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Did this invent furries? I assumed it was furries before this, but
there may have been.
This probably like really, like I feel like
I'm sure it helped.
That's what I mean. I think it's like an aha moment for furries where they're like, that's what's been.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is a profound sexual awakening. I mean, I know it is. I've heard that it is. So
yeah, I mean, that's
it's
Disney.
It's a fine little film.
It's like Disney and Warner Brothers with fucking the Lola Bunny stuff. It just feels like this is what they're trying to do. Like they just want us to fuck these animals. Is that?
I think that's probably.
Is that on me?
No, I think that's probably part of their mission statement for sure.
Right. Like
when Walt Disney drew that mouse, or rather when he stole that drawing that somebody else, Iwerks, made of a mouse all those years ago, he was like, I'm going to dedicate, in 100 years, we're going to figure out how to make people want to fuck this mouse.
Right. Like I can say with certainty that I don't want to fuck these animals. But whenever I watch them, I'm like, why do you want me to fuck these animals?
Yeah, I can tell that that's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like you want me to want to fuck this animal that you drew, and that's weird to me. That's weird to me that you want that. It's more weird. That's more weird to me than someone who's like, yeah, I have a thing. I'm a furry. I want to fuck this animal, or just like, you know, I know it's not all sexual for furries. That's less weird to me than like an animator who's just like, yeah, you want to fuck this, don't you? Check it out.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, because then I feel like I'm doing something like it's like some deeper thing that they need satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good place to end it. Yeah, thank you, Burrito. This was through our Patreon.
It was.
Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed, GAMEFULLY, unemployed. You go on there, you pay $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff's Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spielboys. Those are all for $5 a month. You get all of those. For a little more, you can watch movies with us every Friday night. And then you can have custom We Just Watched, custom podcasts. You can make us do stuff for your amusement.
Yeah. You can. Like watch Robin Hood. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your anthropomorphic... No, that's not right. Maybe it is. Slap your little fox peepers onto that. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yep. And if you see a fox in the wild, throw him some gold.
Yeah, see what he
He'll
does.
know what to do.
See what he does.
Yeah. Yeah, see what he does. He'll probably bite you.
No, you leave some gold in front of a fox den. Next week, he started up a soup kitchen. They're foxes of the people.